All right, with winning screenwriter is Felice Cohen. She's a Fella is the winning script. LGBTQ plus film festival. Really interesting script, a modern tale on Cinderella. Correct?
Correct. Yeah, with a little LGBTQ twist.
Okay.
It's modern day. It takes place in New York City, and all the magic happens in Central Park. So we've got this young girl fella who has a mean stepmother and two obnoxious stepbrothers, and her love is playing softball. And the boys see her playing, and she's the only girl on the team, and so they make fun of her and they say, "Hey, she's a fella," and now she's a fella. Is her name?
And her name is Fella, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. And so, and then there's the plot points are kind of like the Cinderella story, I guess.
Yeah, it follows it. So there's a big uh, ball, and her stepbrothers and stepmother are invited, and she can't go, and she doesn't really want to go because it would mean she'd have to wear a dress. So she goes for a walk in Central Park, and there she meets a homeless woman who turns into her fairy godmother, who only wants to be called G. And she helps her come into a nice tuxedo and gets her a cab and gets her a rat, turns a rat into a driver. She goes to the ball and meets the mayor's daughter. It's a birthday gala for the mayor's daughter, and she falls for the daughter whose nickname is Princess. And when she's leaving, she runs because the music goes off, and she runs and loses one of her Doc Marten shoes. So
So
instead of a
it's
glass
the
slipper,
stroke of
it's a Doc
midnight,
Marten.
like the
Yeah,
like, and then instead of a slipper, or sorry, like a it's a Doc Martin shoe, I guess, right?
exactly, which is a
Yeah.
little more, lesbian, I guess. Just to play a pun on that. And then
Yeah.
Princess finds the Doc Marten and posts pictures on Instagram, and she's going to all these women's bars to try to find her true love. And um, and she's a fella has to figure out how to get there because she's so busy cleaning her apartment. Her stepmother has her so busy.
Yeah.
But there's a nice little twist where she gets lost in the village looking for a bar and goes into a drag queen bar. And lo and behold, there are her stepbrothers singing on stage. And she goes and confronts them, and they all make up and they help her find Princess at the end.
So they're closeted themselves?
Yeah. They're closeted from their mother because their mother was in a Miss America pageant years before and lost to a drag queen. It
Yeah.
was the first year drag queens were allowed into the Miss America pageant, and so she's hated drag queens. The boys are out to their mother, but not as drag queens. So
Gotcha.
it's kind of
So there's like this kind of like self-hate or identity. You got to find who you are, I guess.
yeah, and,
Yeah.
and then they're afraid to confront their mother, but they see she's a fella being courageous, and they get that courage from her.
Okay. And then this is like so in terms of the modern, like you, because you brought up like people, it's like a kind of like Cinderella's like a timeless story. There's like the rags the richest, kindness over cruelty,
Right.
finding who you are as an individual, right? So there are like good themes, right? But at the same time, people can
Absolutely.
argue that maybe it's a little bit dated, I guess, because it's like the order to find love, in order to be happy, you have to find love, which, that's not really true, I guess, right? Is it?
I mean, no, I think you could be happy. I'm happy doing lots of things.
Yeah,
I do have a partner, but I lots of things make me
yeah,
happy. I can
yeah.
go for a bike ride, and I am just happy as a clam. But I grew up loving softball, and I kind of had this idea. And my grandmother, who I named after, her name was Fella. So
Oh,
I kind
wow.
of
Okay.
years ago I had this idea, and somebody said she's a fella, and I thought, oh, she's a fella like Cinderella. And then I just kind of wrote the story and then turned it into a script. But, at the end, they find each other and the godmother appears and helps. And there's, little nods to New York City along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. I'm just saying that that's like, but it's like, but then you're adding depth to the timeless story. I
Right.
guess that's the point I'm trying to make, right?
Yes. Yes. I'm following along. Yeah. No, it is. It's just figuring out who you are. She has to kind of stand up to her stepmother and um, figure out she's afraid to go down, but meantime, she misses her mom. Her mom died of breast cancer when she was younger. Her
Yeah.
father had passed away. So she writes a letter to her mom in like a journal entry kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's how she kind of gets out her angst, and she kind of figures things out with the help of writing and getting things off her chest, but also her fairy godmother helps a lot too.
So quick segue, what position do you play in softball?
I used to play center field, which is why I cannot even throw a pebble 5 feet now because of all the shoulder injuries.
First base.
But yeah,
So you play
center. I
first base.
played Division One. You
So
played
what do you play?
first?
You still play?
No, no.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
you
You
play
got shoulder
softball?
issues?
Well, all those years of throwing from center field to home
Yeah.
plate proudly without it bouncing, I
Yeah.
took a lot of toll on the shoulder.
Gotcha.
Um,
And then, but that's a key
yeah,
position in softball, right? The shortstop and center field are the two key positions in
yeah.
softball,
I
right?
loved it. I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the funny things I did, forgot to mention, is that the tale is narrated by the Tooth Fairy, which is a man in drag, because I love that. Just I
Yeah.
pictured this man with a big beard and, a tutu, but the Tooth Fairy narrates with a little sarcasm and snarkiness,
Yeah.
narrates the whole story. So you are getting the story told as well from the narrator. And, Shesafella is the first in my fancy tale series. I've written Peter Pansy, Sleeping Booty,
Oh,
Beauty and
wow.
the
Okay.
Witch. So there's a bunch. So now I want to, turn them into scripts as well.
You got a theme going on.
I do. I do. I started doing it and then I thought, oh, I could, we grew up, most of us grew up reading these fairy tales, right? Where
Yeah.
the prince and the princess meet. But
Yeah.
for a lot of people, that's not what they're looking for. So I just wanted to, like
I
I have the
think it's
shoemaker.
what they're looking for. No, like that's the thing. Like even those films, they
Right.
stand the test of time. Like
They do.
hand-drawn animation, and they're now, of course, Disney is basically kind of like live actioning them all, right? So,
Yeah.
which some of them are working, and I guess the last one I saw at the theater, it didn't work at all, right? So it's not even
Wow.
subjective; it just didn't work, right? So, Snow White,
Oh, I didn't see it.
yeah, you're not missing much, but
Yeah.
but the reason why they're doing that is because it's because basically and it's like that art of like even with like the Wicked movie, it's that art of like modernizing it just enough to basically kind of kind of like make sure that it still kind of gives tribute to the old one, but also kind of make sure that we know that we're in the 2020s, I guess, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I follow the definite rags to riches, the story, good over evil, triumphing, and I just bring in because in New York City in Central Park, I'm a volunteer there, and there are statues and there are buildings that in these stories come alive. And there are like three bear statue and there's an Alice statue. So I thought, how can I make these come alive? And there's even a statue with a witch and Mother Goose. And I have, when the Twin Towers come down, it's what kind of starts this whole thing.
Yeah.
Two dragons knocked down the Twin Towers. It was 9/11, but
Yeah.
the statue cracks open. And that's how all these statues come to life.
It's funny
And
because Central Park is historical, but they're always modernizing it, but they're still keeping it, they're not putting condos there, right? They're still keeping it like it's still government owned, it's still city owned, right? So, which is
yeah,
kind of amazing. If you look at all the big cities in the world, they nobody has that strip of land like they do in Central Park, and it's so key to the heart of that city, right?
absolutely. It's 843 acres of
Yeah,
prime real estate
real
that, so
prime,
many
yeah.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, would love to get their hands on, but it's the heart of the city. I mean, especially, during the pandemic, it was a savior for thousands of people.
Yeah.
We all just went and walked there, and it was kind of breath of fresh air, literally.
A lot of people made movies. I showed a lot
Yes.
of movies from that were made in Central Park during that time.
Yeah,
A lot of dance
a lot.
films.
Yeah. That's
Okay, so basically this script is great. And so what reminded me of is that you know how like they had Wizard of Oz, of course, and they made the Wiz in 1919 late 1970s with like an all black cast, right?
right.
This reminds me of that, right? Where it's like it's a story that we all know, but now you're kind of like making it. gay. It's a gay, you know what I mean? Which is
Yep.
fantastic.
Right.
And it's going to piss
It's
people off, but it's going to make people happy at the same time, right? Which is great. It's
right.
polarizing.
It's funny. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a fun, sweet, sweet story.
Yeah, no, it's great. No, but it's what I'm saying. It's perfect for the time that where you live in
Right.
now, right? So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
In tone wise,
Yeah.
like you said you started with, by the way, I think that there needs to be a Tooth Fairy movie. Like, I know they made one like 15 years ago, but there's still, I don't know if you have an idea for one, but there needs to be a good Tooth Fairy movie because every kid loses their teeth and every kid basically has tooth, right? It's
That's
there,
true.
right? And even as
Right.
parents, if you're a parent, you have to give how much money do you give? It's like we're part of the scheme too, right? So
Right. I
yeah.
know that's a great idea. I know. I joke, I always got 10 cents, but I always got a letter with the tooth.
Oh, that's
Um,
good.
yeah,
What
it
did
was
they
nice.
say?
She said, "Hi, I'm visiting here from Tooth Fairy Land." And and she's commenting on what I've done. I saw you got a new Atari. I mean, this was like 1978. And I saw you did well in school, or you got a new glove for whatever. Or,
Yeah.
I was like, wow, the Tooth Fairy and my dime. I was so excited.
Dime. I got a
Um,
quarter. So I'm from the 80s.
okay.
You know what they get now?
Dollars, money,
They
gift
get like
cards. I don't know.
$5. They get like $5. That's the going rate.
They're like, they just want Amazon gift cards, these kids.
Yeah, no, that's true too, right? So, but the first one is like $20, and then the tooth afterwards is like $5.
Wow. How do you put a price on teeth? That's
But
funny.
no, but anyways,
Right.
like, so when I
That's
saw that
great.
in your script, I'm like, yeah, that's genius. But it also sets up the tone because like we asked you a genre and you said, of course, fantasy, romance, fairy tale, but it's funny too, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
certain, yeah, comedy to it.
Yeah. Oh, I always have to put a little. I wrote a personal memoir. I had to put comedy in it, even the sex scenes.
Okay. Well,
You got to have
that's
comedy.
another podcast probably, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Another discussion. But yeah, you
Yeah.
got to use always humor.
So, she's a fella, so the fella, that's a key character obviously, right?
Hmm.
So, like obviously
Yeah.
it's in every scene, but basically, but also that tone of like I'm just trying to mainstream this, right? So basically, it's like you don't like she's got to be like she's gay, but what type of gay? If that's okay, you know what I'm trying to say?
Right, right. And that was some great feedback I got from the helper from Wild Song was, you know, kind of having that discussion when she meets Princess.
Yeah,
Because today years ago it was gay, straight,
yeah,
or maybe bi as well. But now there's like, genders a
yeah,
million of them.
exactly.
So it was a great addition to add a little conversation between them about like, how do you identify? Let's get it out of the way. Let's
Yeah,
talk about it. And that was interesting to me, from someone who, was kind of closeted at the beginning. It was the early 90s and afraid to come out. And so this was really kind of eye-opening
yeah,
and
and
making it
and
more mainstream.
and obviously there's different types of lesbian too, right? So like it's not just
Yeah.
one stereotype too, right?
Yeah, no, I tried not to hit on stereotypes,
Yeah,
just kind of make it more broad. But yeah, I mean, the Doc Martin that she doesn't like dresses. She wants to wear a tux, and her godmother is pretty butch. So I just kind of played
yeah.
around with those.
But then the other person could be more,
Yeah,
princessy.
Princess was in a dress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um,
Right.
Yeah, it was fun. And then the stepbrothers, they were fun and they were, end up being sweet and helpful.
So you worked on the other scripts yet? Like the Peter Pansy? Great name title, by the way.
Yeah, I just named after the Tappan Zee Bridge Indian tribe. Yeah, so I've started with Peter Pansy, and the other ones, the stories are written, so now I'm just putting them into scripts. But they're really a lot of fun, and studying. I have the actual fairy tale open as I'm writing to kind of stay along the same trajectory and have ideas that way. But using New York City, using Central Park, it's made it really kind of come to life.
Yeah. And you originally thought this was going to be like a musical play, I guess, right? Like a musical play?
I love musicals, and I thought, how could I do this as a musical? But so I just first wrote the script. I would love to see it as the Shelley Duvall made those fairy tales in the 80s, I think, with actual actors and real people. And I thought this could be fun to do something like that and have it actually take place in New York City with the city behind it and um, the Central Park itself.
Hmm.
But yeah, I would love it as, anything, even short TV shows or, a musical. Like I could see doing a fun campy musical too.
Yeah. No, 100%. Have you ever written music before? Like a song?
I haven't, but I can write lyrics. If somebody gives me a tune, I just love writing,
Yeah.
rhyming lyrics and funny stories. So if anybody likes to write music, let me know. But it's fun.
I know this is kind of a deep dive, but I always wondered when I watched the original film maybe like 5 years ago, and it's like what keeps her so positive? What keeps her so optimistic? The
What
character.
keeps fella?
Yeah.
I think that connection still to her mom by writing letters. It's her way of kind of getting things off
Yeah.
her chest. And she just loves playing softball and being free. And, you know, if
Yeah.
you've ever played a sport and just what your body can do and how good you feel being part of a team, that's what her love is. And that gets her through every day because
That's it. Yeah.
yeah,
There's something about that, right? Where like it doesn't matter what happens in other phases of your life at school, at work, whatever like that. If you got that bond, then everybody, it doesn't mean you got everybody's like best friends. It's just that you guys have that one thing in common, right? So
yeah. And you feel great when you've accomplished something that's not
yeah,
easy. Like diving catches were my specialty. I loved running and catching and just that feeling of, that ball landing in your glove.
it is a good
What an
feeling.
it's a
I'm a
great,
big
yeah,
baseball fan. So yeah, it's a great feeling. Yeah.
nice.
So yeah, no, like and
It's fun.
softball was always great. Like I always loved playing slow pitch after hardball, after like your teenage years, you evolve into that, and you can just play forever in a
Mhm.
sense, right?
Yeah. Oh, I did. I played for a long time and I loved playing co-ed because these guys would see me out in center field
Yeah,
and just try to hit it over my head and
yeah,
no. And I was like, catch it. Like, what? But it's great when you're, as an athlete, when you can accomplish something. It feels good.
yeah. I was trying to do the analytics of slow pitch and like try
Mm.
to mathematically set your team up with the best way for success, right? So I was like
Yeah.
doing it. I'm really heady, so I was like trying to do a deep dive with the teams, but I was never like the coach, right? So I was always trying to find my place, and it got pretty intense. Like these sometimes these games would get so intense, almost to a fault where it was overly competitive. I'm sure you can relate, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. But were you trying to figure out like where people should stand on the
Yeah,
field to
it's
be deep?
hitting
All
too,
that stuff.
like where the lineup, like as if you're doing co-ed, where to
Yep.
place the hitters, like make sure that it's like they do that in major leagues now. Like make
Right.
even if the top like player is a home run hitter, put him on top of the lineup. Make sure he gets the most mathematically gets the most at bats.
Mm,
Um, it's even like the even like getting on second base is key, right? Singles are okay, but it's like slow pitch is all about the force out, right? It's all about that
yeah.
force out on second. And so basically the key to slow pitch is getting doubles. I've always like it's even taking a chance and going for a double. Like make sure that let the outfielder get you out, right? Always like
Nice.
that was always my strategy. Like basically, because as soon as it's a double, there's no force out anymore, right?
Right.
So even if it gets a ground ball to short, that guy can get the third, or that girl can get the third, and then it brings the ring. There's no, and even that shortstop has a hard time. You know what I'm trying to say, right? Like
Right.
or doing,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. Because the guy who just hit the ball can try to get to two, try to
yeah.
get to
So it's
second.
all it was. The strategy was all about doubles, right?
Mm,
And sometimes you would have to tell the hitters like, don't like 'cause some it's ego, it's especially male ego, where
right.
like you just want to
Right.
crush the ball, right?
Right. Don't.
And, and it's not about crushing the ball in slow pitch. And then sometimes we played on short fences, so you see the fence and it's like, oh, I can hit it over the fence, and then
Right.
it gets in your head, right? It's like
In
I
your
can hit
head.
a home run, right?
Right. Right. You just want to pop it over the second
Yeah,
baseman's head.
yeah,
That's
exactly. It's
awesome.
all you got to do. Yeah, it's all you got
Yeah.
to do is put it over the shortstops or second baseman's head.
Right.
Yeah,
That's fun.
yeah. Anyways,
Nice. We could talk baseball all day
Yeah,
on
yeah.
this stuff.
That deep dive was sponsored by Wild Sound, right?
Right.
So, so before we leave you,
New Orleans.
I gotta ask you a fun question. You said in the blog interview, what movie have you seen the most times in your life? Do you remember what you said?
Was it Working Girl?
Working Girl, Mike Nichols, back in the day, right?
Yes. Right. You know, he lived on my street
Oh,
in New York
really?
City. Yeah.
Did you ever talk to him?
I no, but it was one of those things I found out. I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
I mean, I could watch that over and over again.
yeah. The Graduate to
Successful.
Working Girl. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Fantastic filmmaker. And I remember watching that film in the 80s for the first time. And I love the idea like where like she wears like the running shoes. It's such a girl, right? Like they wear the running shoes on the subway and then as soon as they get to the office,
Right.
they got the heels.
Everybody does that.
Yeah.
I mean, he nailed it. I mean, and then the ferry and this, it was just it was beautiful. Just the way it was done and, Harrison Ford.
Yeah,
Um,
Harrison Ford shows up 40 minutes in,
yeah.
right? And like,
And Joan Cusack, I mean, she just killed it with the best lines,
yeah.
$6,000, it's not even leather. The accents, um I remember seeing an interview with Melanie Griffith. There's a scene where she's vacuuming topless at Sigourney Weaver's apartment, and she just said that would just be something I would do. I'm just trying to get things done.
Like and not ruining
So,
your outfit, right? Like so you got to take off your
right,
clothes.
right,
You take off your work
right,
clothes to clean because you don't want to ruin your
right,
work clothes, right?
right, right.
Because dry
How about you?
cleaning
What
is
movie could you
expensive.
watch over and
Sorry?
right? What movie could you watch over and over?
Probably Rocky.
Okay, that's a good one.
That's probably the movie. But like, yeah, and maybe Goodfellas as well. I'm such a guy, right? So
No, I love Goodfellas.
yeah.
That's a great
But
movie.
I saw Working Girl. I want to. I actually, you inspired me to watch it again. I haven't seen it in a while, but
Nice.
because it's like
Right.
it's about, but it's such an '80s kind of capitalistic movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, how to succeed in like in business, right? So
Mhm.
playing the angles and like in that's in happiness was success, right? In the Reagan
Yeah.
era, right? So
Oh, hope. Yeah. I remember doing a job. I used to be an organizer, and morning I was there, and Harrison Ford walked by me. We were the only two people on the street. And then
yeah,
later that week, I saw Sigourney Weaver, and I thought, I'm like Melanie Griffith, going to work, working girl.
yeah,
But yeah, it was just. But Goodfellas, how much money do you need? This much.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so yeah, it's such a time. So obviously you have a love for New York City. I'm assuming Working Girl, the script, right?
I do. I
Yeah,
really do. I mean, I grew up on Cape Cod. I'm actually on Cape Cod right now for the week, but I go back and forth. I love the city, the energy.
yeah,
Even when I lived in that tiny apartment, the city was my backyard and I loved it.
yeah. And you could always go out. There's a smell, and New York City has a distinct smell to it.
Okay.
That's for me.
Yeah.
So I was a small town kid, and then I went to school in New York City for a year,
Oh, wow.
and basically it was like, whoa. I was 22, and it was like it was crazy, right? And then I felt its pace. I had to catch up to its pace, right? To its
Yeah,
energy. Yeah,
you do. It's just interesting switch when I go from here to New York.
100%. Well, congratulations on the success of the script. It's fantastic, and good luck with making Peter Pansy. What else? Yeah, Peter? What else is the other?
I have Sleeping Booty. I have The Shoemaker and Themselves. I have Beauty and the Butch. Jack and the Badstock. Stock. Bernie Madoff is the bad guy.
There's a
So
symbolism with the beanstalk, right? Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot. It's good.
It grows. It grows in the air.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Well,
Okay,
thank you.
well, I'd
Great.
love to see it, and congratulations on everything, and love to talk to you again.
Sounds great. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.